Question, do you deliberately place players into winner and loser queues? Dude, the devs are directly calling you out. Overwatch 2 developer blog explaining matchmaker goals and plans part 2. You're gonna love the FAQ they have at the end. All right, let's go. TLDR. Your ranked games are formed based on your internal matchmaking rating, MMR, regardless of your displayed skill. MMR changes based on the result of each match with the amount of MMR you gain or lose depending on several factors like how highly rated your opponents were or how recently you last played. Our team is aware of some community pain points with competitive and matchmaking. We have a set of improvements coming to matchmaking, and we're also working on updates to the comp system. For competitive play in Season 3, we'll reduce the number of wins between comp updates from 7 to 5 and 20 to 15 losses. Oh, okay, actual changes. For our matchmaker, we are implementing role delta changes that will match similarly ranked players within each role. Most people are not going to hit the 15 losses, right? So in this case, it is really just a tweak from you get an update on average, 50% win rate, right? Every 14 games to every 10. It was actually a pretty good change, I think, because if you didn't actually play that often and you went on some decent loss streaks, let's say you only had maybe an hour or two to play a night, you would go potentially multiple nights without seeing your rank change at all, which is just very unfulfilling. So I think this is a good change overall. And then also down here, role delta changes match similarly ranked players within each role. This I'm very interested in. A little bit worried about my queue times. Season 4 will include additional information about your current wins and losses on the competitive update screens. Our team has begun work on longer-term features and updates for both the matchmaker and comp game mode. We look forward to sharing you more on these plans in the future. Season 4? Oh, about your current wins, losses on comp update screens. Is that like Season 4 will show me how many I won and lost? Because right now it doesn't only show wins and that's it. Because this week is supposed to be Season 3. Right? Often matches with a wide displayed skill tier difference still look very close when looking at the difference in MMR between the teams. The partial rank reset at the beginning of the season may be exaggerating this by making it look like someone is lower than their actual rank. Yes, absolutely true. This is absolutely true. However, regardless of the seasonal reset, both skill tier and MMR can decay over time for players who are inactive for a considerable amount of time. Players who return may see dramatic shifts to their skill tiers. They resume playing regularly, and the game becomes more certain of that player's current skill. So two things. This is definitely true because we've all had those games where you walk in and you have that guy on your team who has like 10 games played and they're 2 divisions under you, and it makes no sense why they're there. But maybe they played the last season, they were at your rank, so it's just the normal decay, but it looks bad. But then I've seen situations with this happening where I had a player, it says here, players who return may see dramatic shifts to their skill tiers as they resume playing regularly. That is something I'm actually a little bit more concerned about. Last week, for those in chat who were here, I had a game where I had a actual Platinum Symmetra player on my team. Might have been Diamond. I think it was Platinum, no. And in previous seasons, they were also Platinum. And I'm top 500. And we were wondering, how did they get here? And it turned out that they hadn't played since Overwatch 1, right? And so they haven't played in so long, the matchmaker makes their MMR a little more loose. Like, it isn't as confident in their skill anymore. And immediately after they came back, they went on like a 10-game win streak. And suddenly, after a 10-game win streak, this Plat Symmetra, they probably won like 3 or 4, and they went through Diamond and Masters. And then they just kept winning. So it put them all the way to GM and then top 500. And so I'm a little bit worried about players who return, who then go on long win streaks, may end up in those ridiculous games that you have no idea how they're there. And it's just the matchmaker trying to figure out where they're supposed to go because they haven't played in so long. No one really knows. I've only seen one of those games so far, but I'm probably going to remember it for a long time. This is an interesting line that I want people to focus on a little bit. We want you to feel a sense of progression without needing to focus on a granular number like a skill rating. That is the intended goal of Overwatch 2 rank system. It is, by and large, made this way from Overwatch 1 because they want you to be able to decay. And then when you play the next season, you watch the number go up and you have that sense of progression. And they have that probably number dialed in somewhere like 20 to 30 games you play to get back to your normal rank where you just enjoy yourself. And as you're doing that, you have an excuse to play the game. People like watching numbers go up. I don't like it, but I can see the developer side of things, but I really obviously don't like it because to me, rank systems in games, I know it's not supposed to be strictly pure all the time, but I really did consider Overwatch rank system to be basically perfect in that regard. Like, it didn't perfectly match MMR, but they didn't do insane decays for everyone. I mean, they kind of did actually for top 500. You go to 3,900 each season, you'd grind yourself back up, and that was kind of it, right? But I guess you could argue that this is basically the same thing. It just feels so much worse because, again, competitive updates are a bit too infrequent, and so a lot of the time it feels like that grind is almost too tedious or too boring, especially if you don't put a lot of time in. Like, I play this game a lot, but I don't play tank that often, so my tank role went from, you know, top 500 down to diamond. I didn't play it this season that much. I played maybe like 10 games, so it's probably going to go down to like plat next season. It's just going to keep dropping. It's going to be weird. And there's 3 different roles to rank up. Yes, it's hard to feel like, you know, and I know most people don't play all 3 roles, but it's going to be weird. Here's a direction we're taking moving forward. What we are doing in season 3. Ooh. Based on community feedback, we're implementing some updates to the matchmaker to try to place pairs of players with similar MMR on each role on either team. This means that opposing tanks should be more similarly matched than before, and likewise for other respective roles. The goal with this change is to make the average MMR between each role more evenly matched to each other instead of looking more broadly across the entire team to balance things out. This is a major change to the matchmaker, so we'll be actively monitoring for any unintended side effects. What this also implies at the end of the day is certain roles have a bigger impact on the game than others, I think, just straight up from stats. Because if your teams, so like if, before they were just looking on a team level, right? Like your average skill of your team versus the average skill of the other team. And now they're looking at it as your tank versus the other tank, and your DPS versus the other DPS, and your support versus the other support, right? And so, true, you don't say, well, I've said it a lot, right? That supports in this game don't necessarily have the same capability of carrying as DPS. And I think it's kind of funny. And, you know, now they're like, they say here specifically based on community feedback, we're doing this because honestly, it doesn't feel good to go in a situation where, you know, maybe your average skill of both teams are the same, but you have a really, really good Mercy player and they have a really, really good tank. You would probably not have a good time, right? And so now, if I can see this being a positive thing, the only thing I'm actually worried about is actively monitoring for unintended side effects. Very scared for my queue times. Very, very scared for my queue times. We'll see. We've seen feedback that having to play as many as 26 matches to get an update has been discouraging for players. Starting with Season 3, you'll now get a competitive update every 5 wins and 15 losses. In the mid-season patch for Season 3, we're also updating the UI, so information about your progress towards a competitive update will always be viewable. Thank you. We've heard your feedback and fusion around seasonal rank decay and ranked resets. Starting with Season 4, we are planning to remove seasonal rank resets and all current and past seasonal rank decay. Wait, what? Okay. We'll continue to build out competitive updates in Season 4. When we add info about your current wins and losses to the competitive update screens, we're hoping this additional context will help you better interpret changes to your skill tier and division in the update. We're also looking into possible ways to provide you with more info about the matchmaking quality of your game. Ooh, this one's actually really, really, it's just a one line kind of off, but this is one super cool. One of the best things about Overwatch 1 that gave people a lot more confidence. Do you guys remember it used to say your average SR versus the enemy SR? You just knew. And it was kind of cool. Competitive updates, we want you to feel a sense of progression without needing to focus on a super granular number like a skill rating, but we feel that competitive updates are a bit too infrequent. It's super interesting they're removing decay now, but not this season, but next season, right? So this will be in Season 4 because they have seen, it's kind of seemed like, you know, they've gone really all in on this, right? Like you guys redid the entire system from just an SR number that went up and down, and then you added decay to give progression, and now you're doubling back and being like, we want you to feel progression on your rank, but we don't want you to feel, I guess maybe it feels too artificial and people don't like it and engage with it, which I think is hopefully true, because it feels very artificial, right? Like, oh, it's a new season, the days changed, your rank goes down 2 divisions, go play 20 games and build it back. And then people queue up and they get mad, and because it's artificial decay, right? And they go, well, why am I against, I'm technically plat now, why am I against, a diamond / master player, even though I've decayed technically a division? And then they have to know all this background information, right? They have to immediately know intuitively, like, oh, well, my MMR didn't decay, but who knows that of your average player? Basically nobody. Who's actually sitting here and reading these blog posts other than the dedicated hardcore fan base? Not that many people, right? It removes a lot of the immediate knowledge that your average player has to have to just understand matchmaking, because matchmaking right now is so unintuitive. This combined with this line, we're looking into possible ways to provide you more info about the matchmaking quality of your game. I hope they bring back a little bit that average SR versus SR, just to tell people kind of like what it's looking like. The goal for our matchmaker is to make each match as fair as possible, meaning your team has an equal chance of winning or losing each individual match. We firmly believe the most fun games of Overwatch are when they are fair, and our team is committed to discovering and implementing new changes and updates that align our game with that goal. Overwatch 2 is a continually evolving experience with new game modes, new heroes, and new maps to explore. New game modes? Interesting. This also means we need to provide a constantly updated experience that can deliver the fairest possible matches through effective changes to how our matchmaker works and through clear communication with all of you.
Of that thing.
Seagull told me 50-50 wasn't real. I don't know who to believe anymore. The devs or the corpus streamer.
The devs or the corpus streamer? No, but it says here, make each match as fair as possible, which means you have an equal chance of winning or losing, which is fundamentally goes down to 50-50, but not force 50-50. There's a difference. Oh my God, they actually answer it. Question, do you deliberately place players into winner and loser queues? Dude. There are no winner or loser queues in Overwatch. Your current MMR is the only thing the matchmaker takes into consideration when forming your matches. The matchmaker doesn't force a 50% win rate on anyone, nor do we favor certain players over others. Oh my God. At its core, our matchmaker is a mathematical formula used to place similarly ranked players together in a match with the goal of creating as fair of games as possible. Oh no, dude. The devs are directly calling you out. Man, I'm having fun with this question because this is going to be going up. Why do I sometimes have a large win or loss streak? So, sometimes if a player goes on a very long win/loss streak, it's indicative that their internal rating is not well calibrated. The best way to calibrate your rank is to continue playing competitively. The more data we have, the closer you'll get to a rank that best represents your skill. Oh my God, are they just flaming you? However, there are times when players are going to get lucky with their win streaks or the opposite with loss streaks. We're investigating this. We'll be testing some changes to see if we're reducing this type of streaks in the future. Chat, so they're saying if you go on large win or loss streaks, that basically, particularly for loss streaks, your rating is just not well calibrated, aka you suck more than we thought, and you just need to play more games so we can get an accurate picture of how bad you are. Okay, that's basically what they're saying. You could also look at it the opposite way. Like maybe you went on a big win streak, and so the game could no longer properly get a mental picture of like how good you are at this video game. And so you go on a big win streak because that's to find out where he wants to put you, you know? Or alternatively, the devs are lying and the win-loss streak is real. Does my competitive rank affect matchmaking? We only create matches based on players' MMR, not the visible competitive rank. A player's visible rank will move towards their rating over time as they continue to play. When we decay ranks at the beginning of the season, this has no effect on players' underlying ratings. This is a very interesting line, by the way. When we decay ranks at the beginning of the season, this has no effect on players' underlying ratings. This is a fun one because at the start of Overwatch 2, this was not true. And I know this wasn't true because we noticed on the launch of Overwatch 2, when we got dropped to Diamond, I was put into Diamond games. It was weird. I don't know. It could just be like a crazy thing. Like, I swear it felt that way. It doesn't feel that way since then, but it really did feel like, no, I was just steamrolling. Were they all real diamonds? I think so. But you know, it is a decay thing. Maybe you could argue like, well, no streamer, because everyone decayed and you're all playing on launch, so technically you're only playing fellow diamonds. But it felt, I mean, it could have just been my own personal experience, right? It could have just been, you know, it did feel that way because everyone was really bad, and I did win a crap ton of games, and then I was playing against normal master players who were all former top 500. So I don't know. Why does the quality of my matches go down at the start of a season? When Season 2 went live, a lot of players who stopped playing during Season 1 came back, so the population of players playing ranked changed dramatically overnight. Ratings are a measure of your skill relative to the rest of players you interact with. Events that cause the population to change a lot will result in some turbulence. We're exploring some ideas for how to tackle this in the future. Oh, so wait a minute. This is basically what... They kind of answered my question, actually, right there. Because with this, they essentially said that, like, probably on launch, there were so many people playing that I ended up playing a bunch of people who were probably not very good, and I just kind of stomped them. That's probably what it's actually saying. Predicted? Yeah, that kind of predicted me, I think. Can we do a full rating reset? A full rating reset would not create a great experience since it would mean throwing out all the knowledge we have about players. This would cause new players to be matched against Overwatch League pros, which is fun for about 30 seconds. We've experienced this in the internal play test. Wait a minute. I feel like this is aimed at me at one point when I was trolling some devs in one of the internal tests at Overwatch 2 beta. I feel targeted right now. Oh god. To be clear, ratings are not an 100% accurate representation of every player's skill. Some players aren't in the right spot, but the system is a vast store of knowledge about the relationship and skill between millions of players, most of whom have never even directly played against one another. Why am I hard stuck at a low rating that doesn't reflect my skill? Oh my god, are they talking about ELO hell? This is exciting. Ultimately, the only way you can increase your rating is to win more than you lose. I love the responses. Since we're putting any given player on a random team with 9 other random players, with enough matches, that player's contributions are the only constant factor, so their rating should end up reflecting their skill. Oh my god, dude, they legitimately just said if you're in every game and you are the constant factor, so your rating should end up reflecting your skill. They legit. But it's also really, really, really funny though, because at the same time, there was a legitimate Bronze 5 bug where people were unironically stuck in Bronze 5 due to a bug around launch. And so we have this little both sides of it, right? Where there was an actual Bronze 5 bug and people were winning like game after game after game and they couldn't rank up. But then at the same time, they're like, well, if you don't account for the bugs, you know, you just have to win more. And because you're the only given player with enough games, you're the only constant factor. Maybe they talk about it here. There are some interesting phenomena here, though, that make this more complicated. For example, we have data showing that matches become less predictable the lower the average rating of a match. Well, yeah, that's because they don't know. It's that classic example of like the new player walks in the game and you don't know what they're doing, so they're more powerful than normal. You know what I mean? Like they don't know what they're doing and you don't know what they're doing, and the matchmaker doesn't know what they're doing either. It can't predict them at all because not even they understand what's going on. Predictability is a measure of how likely the favored team is to win because two teams never have identical ratings. One team is always going to be slightly favorite for a variety of reasons: team coordination, gameplay mistakes, and new players who are trying out different roles and 30+ heroes. The result is we get a little less signal to use to calibrate ratings. We're working on some ways to use that signal more clearly, so stay tuned. So basically they're saying that if you're really bad, it gets harder to predict. Forced 50-50, favored team. Wait, what? No. Wait, predictability is a measure of how likely the favored team is to win because two teams ever have identical ratings. Stop, Chad. Chad, the whole point is as close to 50-50 as possible. They never know. But that means it's real. It's right there. Oh no. All right, let's go. So wait. So you don't take the number of limbs, damage dealt, healing provider, any other scoreboard stats to adjust my MMR. Do you guys remember it used to have performance-based, what is it? It was like performance-based rank back in Overwatch 1, and that was a thing, and they removed it for higher ranked players because in Overwatch 1 there used to be this thing where like the 40% win rate Sombra would be rank 100 because there is no Sombras in top 500, and so they just kept ranking up because technically they had really good stats compared to the rest of the Sombra players. There's stuff like that happened. And so they removed it, but they kept it in place for lower ranks in Overwatch 1, and they haven't talked about it in many years. In Overwatch 2, your MMR adjustment after every match is not impacted by your performance in each match, regardless of your skill tier. So they've actually confirmed they've removed that at some point, because back in the day, they used to have it for lower ranks. They removed performance-based rank ups in that regard. This for a few reasons. We don't want players to be focused on doing things other than trying to focus on the objective and win the match. Okay, yeah, that's pretty fair. Dealing the most damage or getting the most kills won't help your team if your actions don't help them push the payload or capture a control point. Also, for some heroes, especially those in the support role, it can be challenging to determine if the numbers they should produce reflect their skill. Yeah, like if damage matters, does that mean a Bastion or a Junkrat is technically ranking up easier? What about on supports, like a DPS Moira pumping DPS? That'd be a nightmare to figure out. I can see why they got rid of it. Question: why do streamers and pro players often have such long queue times and end up in poor quality matches? Oh my god! Because of I feel so catered to right now. The largest factor influences match quality is just the population of players at that skill level. Top 500 is a small population compared to the millions of players at lower ranks. Towards the center of the rating curve, there are tons of players in the queue for us to choose from, all of whom would allow for a good match, so it's much easier for us to ensure good quality. Contrast this with Overwatch League pros and make something up like 0.00001% of the Overwatch player population. For players at the very top, it's very hard to guarantee a good experience because there's just so few players. Fundamentally, it often comes down to a hard trade-off between making worse games or dramatically increasing queue times, and they're unfortunately already very long. We have some changes coming that should help improve match quality for high MMR players. Oh, really? Thank you. And we're talking about even more sophisticated things we could do in the future. Unfortunately, the 0.00001% of the player base happens to be exclusively in my Twitch chat right now because we all suffer from these bugs and these problems. They're not bugs, more of just suffering from success, truly. Chat, I would like to, please, everyone in chat, all of you top 500 Switch players, top 500 console from, maybe Asia ladder console top 500 4 seasons ago. I know you're out there. Top 500 on the Switch season 3 on support. Yeah, I see you there too. Top 500 on my Atari. Yeah, there's a lot of top 500s in here and we all suffer from this bug. And I just, I'm happy that they're finally addressing this. So overall, pretty good blog post. Honestly, I enjoyed, the actual blog posts over here, right? Where they talk about the changes. The biggest things seem to be 7 to 5 for updates and then getting rid of decay. And also looks like they will finally be hard, like going in on role-based matchmaking, where they try and match role to role instead of just team to team, which are all some pretty good changes. And then also they got to flame the community a little bit for being silly. But I'm excited because, I've been thinking about this. I told you guys, I've enjoyed getting stun locked by stuff like this. And so you see all these tabs I have open up top were in fact from you people in chat who gave me links to look at on stream in the stun lock channel. Half of that was attacking Surefour personally. No, it wasn't. Because there's a lot of really, really funny ones. At TLDR, win and don't lose. If lose, then get good. Yeah, pretty much. Not too far off. Stop attacking Surefour, Madge. We're not attacking Surefour because Surefour is always half trolling with anything he says, which is awesome and hilarious.